Explosive reveal. Mystery party behind the longest ballot. Their candidate breaks the silence. Canada's snap federal election on April 28, 2025, marked a turning point in the nation's political history. The unexpected victory of Mark Carney as leader of the Liberal Party and his ascent to Prime Minister injected fresh energy into the political scene. Yet, beyond the headline-grabbing triumph of Carney and his Liberals, a subtler but no less dramatic story unfolded: the unprecedented length of the ballots voters faced across the country. Never before had Canadians seen such an extensive list of political parties and candidates crowding the ballot, raising eyebrows and questions about the evolving nature of Canadian democracy. This record-breaking ballot featured more than 57 registered political parties, far surpassing previous elections, which typically saw fewer than 20 parties contesting. The proliferation of these minor parties was not a coincidence, but rather a reflection of growing political dissatisfaction and a desire for alternatives outside the traditional Liberal, Conservative, New Democratic, and Bloc Québécois options. Voters expressed a yearning for new voices, new ideas, and representation that better reflected their local concerns and values. This phenomenon puzzled many, prompting both curiosity and concern about what it meant for the democratic process. At the heart of this sprawling ballot was a mystery. Who exactly were these new parties, and what motivated their sudden surge? For weeks, speculation ran wild, with media outlets struggling to make sense of this sudden political fragmentation. The silence from many of these groups left voters in the dark until Rachel Beaumont, a leading candidate for the Forward Canada Alliance, finally stepped forward to speak out. Beaumont's candid and passionate interview provided much-needed insight into the grassroots energy fueling these new parties and the frustration they represent. Beaumont described the Forward Canada Alliance as more than just a political party. It is a movement born from frustration with what many perceive as the failures of Canada's established political elite. The FCA and similar parties arose as a direct response to voters' feelings of alienation and neglect. According to Beaumont, Canadians are tired of the same old promises from major parties that often seem disconnected from everyday realities. The FCA champions practical reforms, democratic renewal, locally tailored climate action, and economic policies designed to support small businesses and working families. Their sudden surge onto the ballot reflects a deep hunger for change and more inclusive representation. The sheer size of the ballot also revealed a deeper problem for voters: overwhelm and confusion. Faced with dozens of party names and unfamiliar candidates, many Canadians expressed anxiety over making an informed choice. The risk of splitting the vote or inadvertently aiding a less favored candidate weighed heavily on many minds. In close races, even a few thousand votes going to minor parties could change the outcome, adding a strategic complexity to the voting process. For some, this raised urgent questions about the need for electoral reform to better accommodate the diversity of political voices while maintaining clear governance. Political analysts and experts have weighed in on this unprecedented fragmentation. They argue that it is both a symptom and a driver of change in Canadian politics. Dr. Anjali Mehta, a political scientist, highlights that this growing diversity of parties reflects Canadians' evolving political identities and dissatisfaction with the status quo. However, she also warns that without electoral reforms, such fragmentation risks weakening the overall effectiveness of government by dispersing votes too widely. This tension between expanding democratic choice and ensuring political stability has ignited debates across the country. Within the corridors of power, reactions to the ballot explosion have been mixed. A senior aide to Prime Minister Carney acknowledged the benefits of greater political engagement but expressed concerns about governance challenges. Vibrant democracy is essential, the aide said, but when so many voices crowd the stage, it can be difficult to build consensus and deliver on promises. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Michael O'Leary used the opportunity to criticize the Liberals, arguing that the flood of minor parties was a symptom of voter disillusionment with Carney's leadership and Liberal policies. Rachel Beaumont rejected the portrayal of minor parties as merely protest or spoiler candidates. She emphasized the legitimacy and grassroots nature of her movement, explaining how the FCA's volunteers canvass neighborhoods often overlooked by the larger parties. Town halls and community meetings held by the FCA focused on urgent local concerns, affordable housing, sustainable resource development, and economic resilience. Beaumont insisted, "We want to strengthen democracy by broadening the conversation, not by creating chaos." Prime Minister Carney himself addressed the issue cautiously, emphasizing democracy's resilience. In public remarks, he acknowledged the unusual size of the ballot as a sign of Canada's active civic engagement, but also highlighted the importance of responsible governance. Carney's early tenure has been focused on economic stability, inflation control, and green innovation, but he recognizes that political fragmentation signals a disconnect that must be addressed if his government hopes to build lasting support. Other party leaders offered measured responses. Jagmeet Singh, head of the New Democratic Party, welcomed new political voices but cautioned against distraction from core national priorities like healthcare and climate justice. Yves-François Blanchet, leader of the Bloc Québécois, stressed unity and effectiveness in Quebec's interests, expressing concern that too many competing parties could dilute their influence. Both underscored the need for focused political dialogue despite growing diversity. Looking forward, the longest ballot could become a defining feature of Canadian politics or a one-time anomaly. Provinces like British Columbia and Ontario have rekindled discussions about electoral reform, considering ranked ballots or proportional representation systems that might better reflect voter intentions without splintering political power. At the federal level, no firm commitments have been made, but the 2025 election has undeniably sparked a fresh debate on how to balance inclusion and governance in a rapidly changing political landscape. For now, the mystery parties like the Forward Canada Alliance remain active, representing a vital undercurrent of political energy. Their emergence signals a fundamental shift. Canadians want more than the traditional party options. They want their voices heard, their concerns addressed, and their futures shaped by leaders who truly understand their communities. As Rachel Beaumont's candidacy shows, this movement is not just noise, but a meaningful call for change. Canada's political future is at a crossroads. The snap election victory of Mark Carney brought new leadership, but the record-breaking ballot revealed deeper currents beneath the surface. The question now is whether this explosion of political diversity will enrich Canadian democracy or challenge its stability. Regardless, the voices behind the longest ballot have broken their silence, and they are here to stay.